Know-It-Alls is live after episode number 6 of Survivor Cambodia. In the words of the great Richard Hatch, who said one time, "I need water and oxygen." That is the case for myself tonight. Josh Wigler, how the hell are you?
I'm doing really, really well. Very excited to dig into some, I think we can call it level 1 Survivor tonight.
Oh, fantastic Survivor. So much going on. A really, really great episode. So many things to sink our teeth into, like it was a pig snout. And we can
we've been doing this for days.
Yeah, very exciting stuff here tonight. And Josh, it was a very interesting episode in terms of the vote. I think that possibly a controversial vote, which I'm very much looking forward to discussing with you here tonight.
Yeah, I think so. I think that I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting one to break down. I think that a lot of people are thinking, why go after Wu when you can go after Savage? I don't think it's as straightforward as that. So there's a lot of different angles to come at it in this one. And I think Kass is the fulcrum vote in this conversation. And it's nice to see Kass is back. Kass was a fun character, but here's Kass, who's always a blast. I don't even know where to start. Yeah, I'm trying. I don't know, not intentionally. There's just so much to get into. It's such a big episode. Emotional, there were literal tears. The whole thing with Terry, it was intense. It was a really intense episode of Survivor. It was great. It was really amazing.
Okay, so let's just set the stage for where we are, like I like to do at the start of this Know-It-Alls, really to kick off another Survivor week. Tomorrow, there will be not one but 2 exit interviews. Both Josh and I will do interviews with both Terry and Wu coming tomorrow morning. You can hear mine here on Rob Has a Podcast, and of course, Josh is on parade.com. You can go to robhasawebsite.com/parade to read those interviews. Plus, we're going to do our big recap podcast. Kenny Huang from Gabon, one of Josh's all-time favorite survivors, will be joining me to talk about everything from this episode, and then we'll be doing your voicemails with Matt Cerrone. But we have another podcast that I'm going to be recording tomorrow night.
Oh, what's that? What are we going to do?
I have a special visitor coming into the studio to discuss the greatness of Terry Deitz, that Shane Powers will be back on the podcast.
Wow, that's incredible. I thought that we gave him a funeral. Is he a zombie?
He's back.
Did he crawl under the dumpster? He survived?
He texted me. He wants to come on and talk about Shane. I said, anytime you want to come on. He wants to talk about Terry and what a great guy Terry is. We're going to have more Shane Powers coming to you. That's going to be a separate show, but we're going to be recording it tomorrow night.
That's spectacular. There's a lot to talk to that guy about, so I can't wait to listen. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and it'll be great to get his take on everything, of course. And we got interview, voicemails, exit interviews, the works, and of course, the best part of this is we've got you here tonight, we got the chat room open here on robhasawebsite.com. Plus, we're going to be taking your tweets, hashtag RHAP, and then again on our YouTube channel at robhasawebsite.com/YouTube. All right, here's where I want to start with this. So let's get into this vote. I want to know from you. Here's Kass. She is really the person who has a decision to make. This is always the time in the game where Kass has a major decision to make. So Kass has to decide, do I go with the Savage plan and go ahead and vote out Spencer, who has been her arch nemesis in the game, or do I go and befriend Spencer, and do I take out somebody in Wu who may or may not have baggage with Kass from Survivor Cagayan? She ultimately elects to be Chaos Kass to upset the plans that Andrew Savage had laid out. Do you like the move?
Do I like the move? Well, I know, you know what? There's a lot that can be made of Kass going after Spencer, and that would be personal, and that would be juicy, and that would be justice. But there's revenge on both sides of the aisle. She either goes after Spencer, who was the Charlie Brown to her Lucy all throughout Cagayan, or she can vote out the person who improbably voted her out right before the final 2. So either way, Kass is getting justice. In terms of the game, I don't know. I mean, she's on a tribe right now with an interesting mix. The new Bayon, almost all of those people, other than Wentworth, have played together already. Kass has only really played. She's played with Savage. Sierra is her tightest person. She doesn't know Wigglesworth. She knows Wu from before. She has this, history with Spencer that's not so great, and yet she chooses to go with Spencer. I don't know. I've been loving Kass this season. I don't know. I don't know that she can put stock in Spencer. I think that that's a dicey call. I get that she wants to do what Sierra wants to do, but to stick with Spencer, I can't feel like this has legs, this alliance.
Yeah, I really feel like I love the television of it. I
Yes.
love the return for Chaos Cass, but I can't see the wisdom in this. That Cass had so much good going on over these first 5 episodes, where she was going to be a part of this big alliance with all the Bion people from the start of the game. So she had that going for her. Plus, she ended up sort of like tightening that bond with people, including Sierra, when she went over to the KO with Keith and with Joe, in that secondary version of Bion. And then yes, she sticks with Sierra, but I feel like she loses a lot. I mean, what does she ultimately gain? The trust of Spencer, but loses the trust of Savage. And we know how Savage can be, I don't want to say vindictive, but if you spurn him, I don't think he gets over that. So why blow up your spot where you have everybody saying, oh, who's this new Cass? And then to almost say, well, Chaos Cass could come back. I don't even know which Cass could show up.
Right.
How could you put your trust back in her after she's earned so much of it through the first 15, 16 some odd days of the game?
Right, and I think you can see if she's trying to make a move against Savage, if she's feeling uncomfortable with Savage for whatever reason, you could see her wanting to weaken his alliance, I guess. But for it to be Wu, who did vote her out, but she has history with Wu, and her history with Wu is a lot smoother than Spencer, despite the death blow. I don't know. I mean, I understand that Abby probably only wants to vote for Wu out of that contingent, and so if you are going to be teaming up with Sierra and Abby, your options are limited. You probably can only vote for Wu. But yeah, it's a little baffling. Again, like you said, great television. I'm glad to see Chaos Cass back, but for her game to risk something like this for Spencer, it's hard to wrap your head around and see how this is a positive thing.
The crazy thing to me, I mean, it's like some great TV show or movie where, the first, 90 minutes of the movie, these two people are working against each other. It's the sequel now, and they're back together. It's like, what's the right pop culture metaphor? You want to say Rocky and Apollo Creed?
Sure, fine. So who's the Ivan Drago?
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
that remains to be seen. But we have these two people who have been adversaries for so long, like coming together. You couldn't script it, and so it was so much fun to watch. I was really just like eating it like it was some delicious balut on my plate.
Oh
and
my God.
Yes, I was like Tasha. I was bouncing.
You're like Jeremy grabbing the bonus balut. That's good.
Yeah, I couldn't get enough of it. I was just cramming it in my eyes because I was loving it so much. But so much fun, and there's so much intrigue. And we lose Wu here tonight to take out Wu. I was really surprised because I felt like the edit did not support a Wu boot tonight. I was like, well, I think it's probably still going to be Spencer because we really didn't see much from Wu. There was a few like aside comments where we saw Wu say when they got back to the new Takeo Beach where he was like, yeah, I finally feel like I'm playing the game now. I'm here with Savage, and this is great.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, you saw like a little bit of Wu, but Wu didn't really have a story tonight.
There wasn't a ton of story on the screen, and I'm sure that there was behind the scenes, because Wu's story this season so far has been the many times he has scorned Abby Maria, although I guess it's really only twice. Twice is enough. Twice is enough to get you dead. I do wish that we'd had a little bit more payoff. Obviously, Abby votes Wu out. She makes good on her promise, if you F with me, you're dead. But I would have liked to have seen a little bit of Abby's take on going after Wu, because I feel like, this is the time. Abby, there are people who would say that Abby's been overexposed this season. I'm not necessarily taking issue with people who think that way, but I think if there was a time for, kind of a snide Abby confessional, this would have been it on your way to kick Wu out the door. So I at least hope that there's a great deleted scene on CBS.com tomorrow.
Yeah, right? I mean, what was with Purple Abby Maria tonight?
Yeah, she's very quiet. I don't know. So I think that there's obviously a story there. There is some completion to that story of Abby finally got rid of Wu. We just didn't get to see that on the screen. I feel like that's wasted. I feel like that's a wasted opportunity. But do you think that this is, Wu this season, Wu was not on the right side of the vote very often, if ever, other than the Varner vote. You know, he did have that big fight against Varner. We were impressed with that.
He did vote against Shireen.
You know, he did vote against Shireen. What's the take on Wu? What's the final takeaway with Wu going out pre-merge, going from second place to pre-merge here? Do you like what we got out of Wu this season? Are you happy with Wu being part of the cast? I know that he was a controversial figure that made second chance. Did we get enough out of Wu?
I don't really think that we got a ton out of Wu. I don't think we got really redemption from Survivor Cagayan. I don't think we got a new Wu. I think that we did see a little bit of a spark in that Jeff Varner vote. And personally, I don't really understand the move to take out Wu. I know that he is somebody who could potentially win. He might be the Takeo version of Joe, the original Takeo. And so maybe you just are worried about it, like, oh, if Wu gets to the merge, he'll win a ton of immunities. He didn't really win that many immunities. I think he won 2 in Cagayan, but he wasn't really dominating the challenges that, you know, Spencer and Tasha beat him out a bunch of times. And I guess that they just look at him, is he Savage's lieutenant?
Yeah.
And that they're worried about the Angkor group coming back together. I just didn't feel like that's a very real threat. And it seemed like if you want to go against Savage, then I think that the better move would be to take out Savage. I know you said that you thought that was complicated. Could we talk that through a little bit?
I think it's complicated. I think unless you can get Kelly Wigglesworth on board, if you can draw her into the plan, you're not going to get Wu. Wu's not going to turn on Savage. We see this confessional where Wu says, I'm so happy to be here with Savage. He's my guy. He's my #1 in this game. So he's not turning on Savage. You'd have to get Wigglesworth because I think that Abby probably feels similarly. I think that she, you know, from the moment that she went on to Angkor, she felt really good about Tasha and Savage, and she never felt good about Wu. And we've seen Abby's history in this game at the very least, and you could go further back to Philippines if you'd like, but we've seen her in this game where she really digs her heels in. You know, she really, when she wants something, that's the way she wants it to go. And she's not, I don't see her, if we're targeting the Savage contingent, I don't see Abby right now saying, well, we got to get rid of Andrew Savage. I don't think that these people can convince her of that, but I think Wu is an easy sell for her. So I think that the only other option there, because you need that fourth, would be Wigglesworth, and who the hell knows where her head is at. You know, maybe
Right.
she wants to do the old school thing, especially now that Terry is gone all of a sudden. Here's Savage. Maybe he's somebody that I can play ball with because the original Takeo numbers have dwindled so far. So it's tough. I think it's really complicated. How would you get rid of Savage? What's the move here?
Well, I think you're right. I think it really comes down to what is Abby Maria willing to do, and is Abby Maria willing to say, okay, we'll vote off Wu next time? Because if Abby Maria comes into this as like, boy, or see, I think it kind of maybe starts with Sierra, and Sierra's like, okay, maybe let's do something else, and it's like, Abby, what would you do? And it's like, well, you know, I would want to vote out Wu, because he voted for me twice. I don't know if you know this.
Right.
And so then they say, okay, let's build from there. It's like, okay, well, Wu is loyal to Savage and go from there. But the real question, I think, is going to be how does Savage handle all of this moving forward as we start to head towards the Survivor merge. Let's talk about Sierra also, because it was her coming out party as well. And you and I are both Sierra fans.
100%.
Based on what we saw. And I was really getting flashbacks to Sierra in Blood versus Water back at that original Tadhana, because it felt very, very similar to me to what was going on in the relationship between Sierra and Brad Culpepper, going back to that vote where Caleb flipped things around on Brad Culpepper, where it's like, okay, so we're going to tell everybody that, okay, it's real, the vote is Spencer, but we're telling everybody it's you. And just like, you know, Caleb said at that point, it was like, hey, well, why are we telling people it's me? And so it was a real wake-up call. That's such a bad move to, hey, let's tell everybody it's you. I mean, to bring it back to Sierra's mom season in Survivor Samoa with, hey, let's, you know, why don't we, you know, the vote is going to be tonight that we're telling everybody that the vote is for John Fincher. It's like, whoa, you know, why?
Please don't do that.
Why do we volunteer the vote to be me? It's never like a person who's high up on the pecking order who gets to be the you know, the scapegoat of like, okay, so we'll tell everybody we're voting for this person.
Right. You know, Fincher he has that great confessional in Samoa where he's talking about, like, if someone's going to be throwing a punch at Laura Moret, like, and I'm standing in the way, I'm stepping out of the way. I'm not going to let you punch me in the face. And I think that we saw that again. We saw that in Blood versus Water with Caleb, as you just pointed out, Sierra's season. And I think that we even saw it with Sierra in a lot of those early tribal councils where she, you know, would you know, she turned the tables on or she set up a situation where at least there's a contingency plan on Dr. John. Just in case that they're lying to us and Rachel is going to get protected, at least we've got 2 votes on Dr. John. So when Sierra feels that she is even slightly, somewhat in the crosshairs, she's not just going to stand and take the punch. She's not going to take that risk. That's not the Sierra Easton game. I guess Andrew Savage didn't study that very carefully, because that is very much textbook Sierra.
Was it on the Survivor Wiki?
I don't know if I think it was on the Wiki. We know that Savage read the Wiki. So I don't know. Do you think that for Sierra, should she have been this threatened by what Savage is proposing, do you think? Or should she be practicing the 3 C's? Should she try and be cool, calm, and collective about this and just let this happen? Or do you appreciate where she's coming from, where she's really forcing this to go a different way and turning the tables on Savage via Wu?
See, the thing for everybody from the original buy-on is really like, how good do you feel about that going back to, do you really feel like if the merge is around the corner, do you feel like that buy-on is going to continue, and is it worthwhile to continue just to take out the Takeo people? I mean, if you're taking out because all the buy-on people are still on the table, so it was really between Wu or Spencer, two people from Takeo. But I think that Sierra, I believe, if you go back to the pregame stuff, and you would probably know better than me because you were there and you talked to them, I believe that there's some connective tissue between Spencer and Sierra. I believe that those were 2 people that were at least like discussed talking to each other. So.
Yeah, I think she wanted to work with him. I think that she wanted to work with Spencer. I think that she saw someone who was like-minded, somebody who is a younger new school player who, and if you think about, even just like the age gap on this season, there's not a ton of people in their 20s in this game. Spencer and Sierra are close in age. I think they're close in seasons. They're close in mindset in terms of playing the game. She was interested in working with Spencer. So in terms of people that could be picked off right here, I'm sure she didn't want to get rid of Spencer. I'm sure she looks at Spencer as somebody that she could potentially work with. What does complicate things is the relationship between Sierra and Kass, and now add Spencer into the mix. I think we're seeing that Sierra and Kass are pretty tight. Obviously, Kass made a very big move tonight to go from calm Kass to chaos Kass, to basically sacrifice this, if you want to call it a facade or this metamorphosis that she was on in turning into calm Kass. She decided to go be chaos Kass in support of Sierra's plan. So clearly there's something very strong there between Sierra and Kass, and I feel like we can call what Kass did tonight a questionable move at best, a potentially really bad move, but I think that you got to give big thumbs up to Sierra for being able to convince Kass to work with somebody who was her arch nemesis on her first season.
Do you see Sierra as the architect of this move tonight?
I think so. I think that I think that the Wu target comes up from Abby. I think the way I see it, there's that scene in the woods with Sierra and Kass and Abby, and they're talking things through. And if we've got like the extended footage on that, you got to imagine, well, why don't we flip the tables on Savage? And Abby's like, nope, it's got to be Wu. And I think I could very easily see Sierra being like, fine, Wu. Let's just bring the hatchet down on this guy. So yeah, I think that this feels like a Sierra move to me. Do you disagree?
No, I think that that's probably the case. I mean, the TV show certainly, I think, gave more credit to Kass for ultimately coming up with this. But the real question is going to be, how much was Sierra twisting Kass's arm and to some degree vouching for Spencer? Like, Kass, trust me. Do you trust me? I've been talking to Spencer. He's good. He doesn't have anybody else. He's always going to be a target in front of us. Wu, he's not with us. He's loyal to Savage. He wasn't with us at Savage. He's doing his own thing. He wasn't with us at the KO. Let's bring Spencer on board. That's going to be a crazier game where Savage is going to keep his alpha males. Both Kass and Sierra were not part of that big 5-person alliance. It's unclear that new Surround and Drown, that it was Savage, it was Jeremy, it was Keith, it was Joe and Tasha. Again, none of those people were together, and it's unclear also what Kass's relationship is like with Tasha too. So
totally.
So we did see that great matchup. Again, another one of these reasons why this episode was so great. The Kass versus Tasha sudden death in the immunity challenge, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that. But really fun stuff, and I feel like I'm so relieved that we went down to 2 tribes, because this, I feel like the possibilities are endless. We haven't even touched on Bion yet, but there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, very, very combustible dynamics right now, and I think I do think that the show made it look like not so much that Cass was the architect, but it was Cass's decision. Cass was, as she likes to call herself in an early episode of Kagian, I'm the hatchet man for Spencer, or I'm the hatchet man for Jatia, is what she says, and she swung the hatchet. I wonder how this plays. I think it's an interesting choice to get rid of Wu, who is someone that she has history with. That's mostly smooth right up until the end, and to keep Spencer, I don't know. That's so dicey, and I think it's a real credit to Sierra being able to convince Cass to go to that side. That's pretty amazing.
All right, so now potentially moving forward here, where does this leave Savage? That he thought he was coming into this with a big majority as basically the unquestioned leader of Takeo. And what did he say? I think that this is going to be one of the biggest blindsides, one of the most
In
emotional
history.
blindsides in Survivor history, and
Yeah.
we'll go with that. But now it's basically Savage and Kelly Wigglesworth. That's his alliance. Somebody that he really had no interaction with before, other than it's like, hey, I'm old school, you're old school.
Right. Well, do you think that that's it for Savage? I mean, he has a good relationship with Abby. Do you think that that's unsalvageable for him?
I'm not sure, but I think that for Savage, I don't know if he could necessarily swallow his pride and then fall into the pecking order somewhere of like, wait, am I below Spencer now? I think
Right.
that is going to be a tough pill for him to swallow, and I think that will be interesting to see how that plays out. And really, as we head towards the merge, to see, I think it's going to be very fascinating, and I'm really glad that they did this sort of a shakeup, because really, I don't know if it's necessarily Bion versus Takeo, if that's totally clear.
Yeah. I mean, we did get this interesting line from Savage at Tribal Council where he's like, I have no doubts about what's going on tonight, and my judgment is my judgment, and if I screw it up, it's on me. He screwed it up. It didn't go the way that he wanted it to go. And it was, he was targeting a person that he even felt comfortable with. He felt comfortable about Spencer. He was saying that he was doing this because he thought that this would be easy for Cass to swallow. So he's targeted somebody that he felt he could work with. Can he rebound from this? Can he figure things out with Spencer? Can he rebuild that trust? Does he have that in him? I think that, if you go back and listen to our commentary of Pearl Islands, I don't know that you and I really would give Savage the credit that he would be able to really recover from a situation like this. And I think that we've seen on Survivor, when Savage is down in the dumps, traditionally, he's pretty down in the dumps. And it was interesting when he got to Angkor and things worked out. I think a lot of credit goes to Tasha for turning that ship around. But how much credit goes to Savage, and does he have it in him to turn his situation around right now? I'm looking forward to seeing.
It's funny, after the first tribe swap, he was like, oh, this is terrible.
Right.
Why? It's so unfair. I don't have a good record with twists. And then tonight they did tribe swap. He was like, I'm loving it. This is the best words in the English language, or drop your bops. So like, all right, well, 6 days ago you said that it's like an unfair twist in the game. All right, let's talk about what's going on at Bion, and probably the biggest story over there is Steven Fischbach versus Joe, and Steven's big emotional scene tonight, where he talked about how
so good.
It basically at Bion, it's very interesting because you have all original Bion plus Kelly Wentworth, but it seems like Joe is willing to stick his neck out to save Kelly Wentworth and keep her around after being at the new Takeo together. And so Joe is talking about, well, maybe we should vote out Kimmy, who was Bion strong the whole time. And so Steven is like going around to people saying like, hey, can you believe this guy? Can you see what this Joe is doing? Where does this guy get off? And people are sort of like, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, and this is coming from the most recent Tribal Council, where Steven and Jeremy worked with Kimmy to pull off a really great Survivor play, a really great blindside. They pulled off that 3-2-1. It seems like there's a lot of trust between those three. And for Steven to see the targets turning on Kimmy, of course he doesn't want that. He's got trust with Kimmy. He loves Kimmy. He likes working with Kimmy. And this is right about the time, certainly if you're Steven Fischbach. We can get into Jeremy's perspective, but if you're Steven, now is the time to be putting Joe in your sights. We're at that moment. We're deep enough into the game where Joe's hammock building and challenge prowess, which was so wonderful in the early start of the game, this is right around the time where that usefulness wears out its welcome, don't you think?
It's certainly getting to be around that time.
Yes.
I mean, I think there's some question: is it too early, or is it time yet? And really, what's the best course of action? So Steven talks about, and I thought this was very very emotional, and certainly absolutely like totally Steven was that scene, and they really let it play for a long time, where Steven is talking about this idea that it's a second chance, and it was so Steven that he's crying, and he's like being like meta about it, like I can't believe I'm actually crying on this.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like, he can't believe that tears are coming, and he's trying to go. And again, he keeps commenting on the fact that he can't believe that he's crying doing the interview.
So good. It's great.
Which is so the whole thing is just so perfectly Steven in a nutshell of sort of like, I'm doing this thing, but I'm also thinking about that I'm doing this thing, and I'm commenting on the fact that I'm commenting. And so it's like when he goes on Twitter and replies to himself, like he's like comment like, am I really commenting on Twitter?
Yeah.
So some people looked at this and said, okay, this is a bad sign for Steven. I was worried that this might be Steven's number up tonight.
Okay.
Other people are looking at it and saying this is a good sign for Steven.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's a good sign for Steven. I think that this was a great episode for Steven. I mean, certainly not his wiggling around on the obstacle course or on the oil slicked course. That wasn't great. And Jeremy saying, "We got confidence in you, Jeremy. We got you. We got you, Steven. You got to have confidence in yourself." That wasn't fantastic.
Hey, on the bright side, he did not get the ring on the other team's post.
That's right. He aimed for the right target at least. He didn't get the target, but he didn't get there, so that's good. I don't know. I think Steven it's been complicated with Steven. We've gotten the dodo edit from Steven. We've seen him not be great in challenges. We do have this emotional moment for him where he is thinking clearly. He is thinking correctly in terms of, why don't we turn the tables on Joe? Why don't we do that? And, maybe he doesn't have the audience for it, and that's what he's getting emotional about. He's saying, if I can't convince my people to make the right move, that's on me. And I get that, and I get why that's emotional for him, but he is thinking clearly in terms of what he should be doing right now and who he should be targeting. And he's being very meta in the moment, and it's not just in terms of commentating on the fact that he's crying and he can't believe he's crying, but also he's being very self-aware in terms of his challenge performance. Like, I know that I'm not great at that part of the game, but I get this part of the game. And if I can't show that, then what does that say? I thought it was a very vulnerable, great moment for Stephen Fischbach. It was tremendous television. And I think that, if Steven was here to get even more meta, if Steven was where I am right now, and if he was in his traditional spot on the know-it-alls, I think he'd look at that character on television and say, this is great for the growth narrative. This is great for Stephen Fischbach on television. And this is, as I did see on Twitter, a lot of people saying, potential winners edit material. I don't know if we'll go that far, but I think it was positive for Steven. I think it created a compelling character, a complicated character out of him, and I don't think that that's just to set up some sort of epic catastrophe. I think that it's showing that he's in this. He's in the game right now. I'm feeling good about Steven.
Yeah, I think it could go either way. I really do. I think that I definitely could see what you're talking about. I also could see that, he's forcing it, and I think that basically he's trying to sell an idea to people who don't necessarily want to buy it. And I feel like on Survivor, the arguments that tend to work are the arguments that you don't have to convince people too hard into, the arguments of emotion, where you sort of like get people invested. If Jeremy doesn't want to vote out Joe, if Tasha doesn't want to vote out Joe, I feel like that's sort of a uphill climb, and I think that there is some danger into selling something to people who are telling you, I don't know if that's the right time for that, Steve.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that the timing is absolutely an issue here. I think that he's obviously got a very solid thing with Jeremy. He's been working really well with Jeremy. We've seen Jeremy talk about how he would like to be Steven's JT. He would like to be that golden boy that Steven can't get rid of. He likes that role. So I know we've got a good relationship between those guys, but Steven is trying to come after Joe right now. I think it's the right time to do it, but these other people don't seem to agree. And selling that to those people right now, it's obviously a difficult sell. So I don't know. It's tough, and I think that he needs to figure out timing on this problem. But hopefully he can figure it out. I think in terms of showing that moment, I think that showing that vulnerability, I feel like that's a good sign in terms of following the story of the season, in terms of following the second chance, which has been about evolution, as Kass said recently, and I think that Steven being that emotionally vulnerable and self-aware is really a side of him that we haven't seen on Survivor before. So I feel good about that. From that perspective, I feel good about that.
The other problem for Steven is that he's trying to sell this idea to people that are in a Final Five alliance with Joe, and the fact that he doesn't know about that from being sort of on the outs at Bion. So Jeremy and Tasha are like, no, let's not vote out Joe, because they're in this alliance with Savage and with Keith. And again, who knows if that holds? I think the best thing for Steven right now would be to get into a merge and sort of hook up with that Spencer, Kass, Sierra, Abby Maria thing, that alliance that just voted out Wu.
Yeah.
If Steven and maybe Kimmy can hook up with them, that would be the best and safest place for him in this game.
Yeah, well, watch him try to sell that to Kimmy, and Kimmy's like, Fischbach's betraying Bion. We got to kill Fish. We got to get rid of him.
Yeah, so really,
that's how that story ends.
Interesting people to watch as we head towards the merge. All right, you ready to take some questions?
Yeah, sure, let's do it.
Or you want to just real quick? I know you love the gross food challenge.
Yeah, the gross food challenge was great. I got to do this one when I was on location with Gordon Holmes and Dalton Ross. Gordon Holmes, who stuffed the scorpion in his mouth, was the victor. I did the piece by piece. I came second. It was fun. It was good. It tastes like shitty soft shell crab. It's not so bad.
I really, after watching that tonight, I really, I have no great desire to go play Survivor again. I feel like I'm good. I'm good watching that.
I could do it. The gross food challenge isn't so bad. Some of that stuff, I can't believe that Jeremy went for the bonus balut. That's disgusting. That's gross. I don't care if you haven't eaten in 16 days. That's disgusting.
You like bonus balut?
No, I don't like the bonus balut. That was gross. I liked the moment. I did think that was great of Jeremy just being like, I'm hungry. What do you want?
Yeah, how much of it did he eat? I'm watching it on a small screen on the East Coast.
He just had a bite. He just took a bite of the leftover balut and just took a freaking bite of the bonus balut.
So let me just get this straight. So Jeremy is letting chickens loose because he thinks it's funny, but he's gonna eat bonus balut.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
Okay. Just want to get that straight.
Yeah.
And I really did love the return of the pre-merge gross food competition. It's been quite some time, I feel like, since we've had, maybe since Samoa, that we had the pre-merge gross food challenge. Basically, you have the whole team. If this is post-merge and Kimmy's like, I don't eat pork.
Right.
30 years. It's like, okay, who cares? But the fact that Kimmy decides to not eat the pig's brain, that you have a whole tribe of people saying, really? Really?
Yeah.
You're not going to eat that for us?
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah. We can't get into questions without talking about Terry. Obviously,
okay.
we got to get into Terry a little bit. What was your take on how the episode handled what went down with Terry? We saw it has a happy ending. I thought the way that they crafted that was really great, and thankfully everything's great with the Deitzes. But what was your take on what happened with Terry?
I mean, of course, as a parent, it's such a nightmare to think that there could potentially be anything wrong with one of your kids. And then, I mean, Terry, kudos to him for handling that. I mean, sometimes
like a champion. Oh my God.
Sometimes my wife calls me and I don't expect her to call me, and I'm just like, is everything okay? Is everything all right? Is it
sure?
And just the fact that he was like, okay, what do I have to do? All right, I guess I gotta go. And so he just was like handled everything like like the kind of guy who is cool under pressure and very happy. I had known that there was basically from being on Facebook and having so many Survivor friends, I knew that Terry's son had some sort of a procedure, and I had seen things about it, and I didn't know a lot about that coming into it, but I really liked the way that the show gave us that update at the end of the episode. I almost wish that they would have told us, like, in the moment, like, stay tuned for an update on Terry and his family at the end of the show. And I think that because I felt like it was a little bit like we were left in the lurch for most of the episode of like, what happened?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really thought that we wouldn't get any follow-up. And, again, like I'd seen the hashtag Danny Strong, that things had been going well. But I'm glad that the show was able to come up with some way of checking in and letting us know that things were going well there. So it's really sad to see someone go out of the game like that, unusual circumstances that, really Jenna Maraska is probably the closest I can think of in terms of a situation like that, in terms of someone back home is not doing well and you leave the game for that. But it's difficult, really, really difficult. And I think the show handled it really well, and thankfully everything seems to be good with the Deitz clan.
Okay, let's get into taking some questions here tonight, and let's start with Tim Marzullo, who says, who, obviously besides Wu, is hurt by the vote? I would say Jeremy or Joe, because that's one potential shield for them gone.
Yeah. Well, Tasha obviously had a good thing with Wu. I don't think that that's great. Savage had a great thing with Wu. So I think that those two people who were thriving at Angkor losing Wu, I think that that's not good. These people liked Wu, and Kelly Wigglesworth obviously had a good thing going with Wu. So I think those are people who are not going to be psyched that Wu is out of the game.
Yeah, I think the Savage, I would say, would be my number one there. What do you what does Kyla have to say?
Yeah, Kyla says, shouldn't Kass have wanted revenge against Wu more over Spencer for picking Tony over her for the final two? And again, you can see the bloodlust on both sides of the sword. It's a double-edged sword, and either way she swings the thing, someone that she has been scorned by is going to get cut. So that's great. But I think that in terms of who the players are, there is just this deep-seated mistrust between Spencer and Kass. And with Kass and Wu, this is a guy who made a bad call, who knows that he made a bad call at this point and has been, talking about how I need to come out here and be a little more cutthroat, had a good relationship with Kass. It's really hard for me to come up with a reason why it makes sense for Kass to get rid of Wu over Spencer. I don't see it, even if it's a revenge thing.
Yeah. Remind me again, why does Kass need revenge against Spencer?
Because, I don't know, it's just fun.
Because it seems like this is a very one-sided rivalry, Kass and Spencer, Kass and Spencer, Kass and Spencer.
It's great, though. She has the need for vengeance because it's great television. It's really
okay.
Great.
Can we say that Charlie Brown actually got to kick the football tonight?
I think he did. I think he kicked the football, and I think that when he was done, he said, "Woo!"
And boy, that next time she pulls the ball away, it's just going to sting all the more, though. Right?
Is that coming up, you think? Is that the next step? You can't imagine that this has legs. You can't imagine that Kass and Spencer can work together long term.
Not sure.
If they can, that's kind of incredible too. So I'm loving that this was the outcome. I don't know if it was a good move, but I love it's the outcome because I think there's so much dramatic potential moving forward.
It does set up a potential scenario coming into Emerge where you would have Tasha versus Spencer and Kass. So it's sort of like things that you would think that Tasha would be upset about this coming into Emerge and say well, why did you guys vote off Wu? Why did you do that? Kass, you were with us. We were Bion. Bion. Spencer was on the other team. You hate Spencer. Yeah. Why did you do this? Wu was with us.
Yeah, whatever Brains reunion is in the future is going to be delicious. It's going to be even more immaculate in your mouth than those pig brains. It's going to be good. Be real good.
All right. Princess Kendall wants to know, has Wigglesworth voted wrong at every single tribal she's been to this season?
Well, she was. I don't know if she voted for Spencer or Shireen, but she was in on that plan at least. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'd like to know what's going on with Wigglesworth. There's really no insight going on there. A little bit of purple Wigglesworth going on right now.
Yeah, I thought you got to see her probably more tonight than you had been seeing her. She was very vocal about the Terry thing.
Yeah. She was obviously very upset about that, and, talking about it from the perspective of being a parent. I would just like to know where she is strategically right now because her pregame alliance is gone. Varner's gone. Terry's gone. Shane didn't show up. He did not just show up. So where's Wigglesworth's head at in this game? She did side with Savage and Wu on this thing. Did not work out. Where does she move forward from here? I'm very interested to find out what goes on next for Kelly Wigglesworth.
Okay. What about from Darren?
All right, Darren says, why didn't Abby talk? She beat someone in a head-to-head challenge for probably the first time ever, and she had a grudge against Wu and her way. She should have had something to say this episode. Darren, I agree. I think that, if we've had too much Abby on our TVs so far, I feel like this was the time to really have a great Abby confessional. So can't disagree. Can't disagree with that.
Yeah, would have been interesting to see. I'm sure we get at least a secret scene on CBS.com.
Yeah, I really hope so. Jason Riotmaker says, how does trying to flip people actually play out in real time on the island in Steven versus Joe? Well, you've played Survivor, Rob. Can you speak to this?
In terms of, can you say that one more time?
Yeah, how does trying to flip people actually play out in real time on the island? The legwork, the muscle that Steven is putting into this. Let's turn people around against Joe. How is that? What's the day-to-day of that kind of situation like?
There was probably a couple of scenarios where it's sort of like trying to get people to change their mind one way or another from my season. I can recall when you had Heidi and Jenna trying to flip Christy around, and they were just constantly working on her. But we knew that they were also going back and forth. And then there was a little bit of people trying to swing votes with Dina and Alex. I think that you sort of like would like to make the case, but you don't want to push too strong. And I think that's really the risk that Steven is running into, where to him, like he feels like he's trying stuff, and the fact that nobody's saying to him, yeah, well, Steven, we have a 5-person alliance with Joe, and that's why. So they're sort of like probably just like making up reasons to him to sort of say like, yeah, but we'll do that later. Right. And he's like, no, but you don't understand. But it's really that it's Steven that doesn't understand that they have a deal with him, and so Steven could like present all of the logical arguments to them, but each of those people has their own reason. And for Jeremy specifically, he feels like, okay, well, Joe's my shield. Right. Like, I don't want to give up my shield, because then once we set the and Steven said, we'll set up the tenor for the whole rest of the game, which is vote out the strongest players. And Jeremy's like, I don't want to do that. That's not a good move for me. So I think for Steven, I think it's if he could start to get incept the idea, but I don't think that makes him a failure if he's not able to get people to bite at this particular moment in time. And I think it's a tricky game to play.
Yeah. How long can Jeremy use that meat shield argument with Joe? I mean, I guess just to riff on it for a second, probably a little while, because his original alliance is a bunch of meat shields, right?
Yeah. I think so. I think that he wants to get back together with that group, and he wants to get to the final 5 or 6 with that group.
What do you think his view of Steven's place in that is? Does he think that Steven is along for that ride, or is that Steven and JT thing that he wants to build with Steven? Is that not going to be a long-term plan for Jeremy from where he's sitting right now?
I think he's, Kim Spradlin right now. I think he's going to keep his options open. If that plays out, great. If the Steven thing plays out. And so I think that there's a lot of different ways that Jeremy could move forward in this, and he doesn't necessarily know what the best way to go is.
Okay. This is from Sage Hayden. The Takeo 5 plus Abby and Spencer could form a majority next week. What are the chances of that happening? Do you see that super alliance forming? That would be, Wentworth, Joe, Keith, Sierra, Kass, Spencer, and Abby. Is that an alliance that's going to happen?
The Takeo 5 plus Abby and Spencer. I mean, I'm not sure. Well, I mean, we have a lot of time to sort of like figure that all out. Again, I don't think things are going to be as cut and dry as we might imagine them to be, right now.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, let's take a couple more questions. This is from the Zeddy Boy. Just like on Heroes vs. Villains, they didn't show us everybody during the reward challenge. Why? It'd be nice for every once in a while to see matchups.
Yeah, I thought it was a good reward challenge. Did we not see every single matchup?
I mean, I think we went to we had round of 5. Did it go to 3 versus 2?
I was too distracted by the oiled up Jeremy. Oh my God.
Yeah,
that is a handsome man, that guy.
Yeah, he is.
And also a big fan of the Fischbach wiggle. As a wiggler myself, I liked that. I thought that was good.
Oiled up Fischbach?
Fischbach. Fishy's looking great. He's looking good. He's not a super athlete, as Jeremy would tell you, but dude's looking good. CrossFit. Yeah. It works. Crossfish.
Everybody's looking good with a little bit of oil.
Yeah, crossfish. It's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Nick 2S wants to say, what explanation can you think of for why didn't Savage use Wigglesworth as the fake name over Sierra? Yeah, why is Savage selling Sierra down the river? Why is she the person? Obviously, he didn't read Survivor Wiki, but beyond that, why is it Sierra? Why is Sierra the person that he's floating out there?
That we don't know. Maybe it seems like that would be an easier sell to come up with a compelling case as to why to vote Sierra out of. Like, oh, she's sneakier. She voted her mom out, as opposed to Kelly, where there's no good reason that they could maybe come up with other than, oh, Spencer. The reason why we're getting rid of her is because she's Takeo, and maybe that starts to get Spencer's wheels turning a little bit. Like, well, hold on a second. So if you're voting out her because she's Takeo, does that mean I'm next? It's like, well, no, we like you. So I think that they were probably concerned that that was going to sort of set off a chain reaction where he was going to become more squirrely.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of squirrely, let's talk about the Weasel. Bobbert Smith says, Woo's third chance. That's the question. Are we getting a third chance for Woo, or is that lights out? Is it boo-hoo Woo and that's it?
What do you think?
It's probably boo-hoo Woo.
I think that's.
I think that was Woo upside. I think that was Woo's final shot.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We'll probably talk about that more on the voicemails, but I feel like on initial returns, I would say I'm not going to bet on it.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm a big Woo fan, but I think that's the end of the line. I think.
Okay, Joe Kirsch wants to know: do you think that Savage will be willing to work with Steven at the merge?
I don't know. This was a story that was established early, that there was mistrust between these two, stemming from the pregame in that great Dalton Ross video on EW of who do you want to see gone first? Savage says Fischbach. Fischbach says Savage.
Fischbach.
And on the show, we haven't really seen those tensions cooled, at least in the time that they were on Bayonne together. They've been apart for a while. Steven has gotten close with Jeremy. Can that be some sort of bridge to getting Steven and Savage to work together? Maybe, but it seems like there's this mistrust between these two. I don't feel good about these two working together. What do you think?
No, I don't think. I don't have a feeling of. I don't have a good feeling about Fish and Savage working together.
I don't either.
But again, Savage could be in a desperation mode. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Like if there is a merge, and then Savage is able to reconnect with his original buy-on people, and sort of like, okay, what do we have? What do we have right now?
Right.
And don't be surprised if sort of just taking a look at deals that were made. I think that the guy who could be in the crosshairs of being a very interesting swing vote could be your boy Keith Nail.
Yes.
He's in that buy-on 5, but also he made allegiances to the new Takeo people, but Joe is there also, and Joe is looking to where does Kelly Wentworth fall into all this?
Right.
So I think that this is not going to be a straight one side versus the other side merge.
Oh man, well, if you've got Keith Nail as the fulcrum vote going into the future here, you've got this one San Juan del Dur fan pretty happy. I like that idea. That's good. That's fun.
Okay.
Unpredictable.
All right. Let's do one last question.
Sure. Let's do. This is from Sakeshi's broadcasting channel. Wow.
Well, welcome, Sakeshi.
Welcome to the table. Do you think that merging at 13 when both tribes are so uneven is so even is unfair, since it guarantees one tribe will be in the minority? What's your take on that?
This is not heroes versus villains. This is like you have like basically this is like doing some sort of like DNA chart where you have like buy-on, and you have buy-on to KO, and you have buy-on Anchor, and then you have Takeo, Takeo Anchor, Takeo Bion. You have people that have spent time, not to mention like they've all known each other some of them have played together. This is there is nothing that is unfair or uneven coming into this merge.
Yeah. It's a very jumbled up mess right now. I mean, mostly Takeo people have gone. There's only 4 original Takeo left, but things have been mixed and matched so often at this point that who the hell knows how it's going to shake out. So that's what's fun about the season. That's why it's great.
All right, so busy Thursday ahead here in our Survivor coverage. Of course, exit interviews galore tomorrow. I'll have both those exit interviews all together in one show. Then plus, Josh is going to be having his for parade.com. Don't forget to go to Rob's website.com/parade for all of Josh's articles from Parade. Or you can follow Josh on Twitter. He's at Round Howard.
That's true.
Yeah. And then
like Howard Dean, but rounder.
And then also we have our hashtag for tonight's show. What do you want to go with? Bonus balut?
Bonus balut? Yeah, let's give everybody a bonus balut.
There you go.
Sink your teeth into that.
Thursday, we've got Kenny from Survivor Gabon coming up, and then voicemails with my buddy Matt Cerrone. Get those voicemails in. Go to robinswebsite.com/voicemail or 323-282-RHAP, and then I will have a podcast probably coming out on Friday in my conversation with Shane Powers. So lots of stuff going on here as we discuss this. And then going into next week, believe we're down to how many people left, Josh?
I think there's 13 left. A baker's dozen.
So we're going to dial AJ Mass up on the phone, too.
Oh, yeah.
Hear from him on his ideal 13 archetypes that you want in your Survivor season. So a lot coming up here on the podcast. Have a great night, everybody. Anything else, Josh?
No. I'm just wondering when you sleep. That's really my only question that I've got left.
It's not happening this week, but we got a lot going on. Looking forward to it, and don't forget, we've got some very big Walking Dead episode this week. Josh and I have a lot of coverage up on postshowrecaps.com for all your scripted TV podcasting needs. Check it out, postshowrecaps.com. Have a good night, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.